Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we have the patch notes for 14.19, and with that we get stuff like set 5.5 and a bunch of new changes to the base game. So here are the patch highlights. We're going to cover the summary first and then go into every little detail. Warrior, Eldritch, Soraka, Seraphine, Akali, Jinx, and Nora all being buffed, along with Pillar of Flame. This was by far the worst augment almost ever. High Horsepower and Spider Queen also getting a little bump up. They're adjusting Gwen. Gwen's AI has been acting a little funky in the recent patch, but hopefully they fix that there. Nerfing Fairies, Frost, and Honeymancy. All make sense. Ezreal, Hecarim, Katarina, and Briar. And they're also nerfing Royal Guard, Zap Attack, and Winter is coming. So a bunch of the trade stuff getting nerfed. Hero augments getting adjusted a little bit. I don't think there are too many champion changes, but we'll see how big they are. They're also adding in the new Dawn of Heroes Revival, which is set 5.5. Rotating shop infographic, they're going to be introducing a couple of new stuff. And in case you have not played set 5.5 before, you should probably check this out a little bit. It'll be live for like a couple of weeks. And there's also like a little ladder thing. Next up we have is the Magic and Mayhem Pass Chapter 2. So for the Battle Pass, you get a bunch of treasure tokens, realm crystals, an arena, booms, etc., etc. And then now onto the meat of the stuff, large changes. So traits are going to be a big thing. So Fairy is going to get nerfed a bit. The Queen's Guard armor, which I think was the most OP part about the Fairy comp, Rakan just literally never died. The healing and shielding power is being reduced from 35 to 25%. The healing from the Queen's damage is also being reduced from 15% to 12%. So those are actually not too big of changes, I think. They're really just nerfing one aspect of Fairy. I thought it would be a bit more, so I think the Kalista comp is still going to be good, just not as OP, but there are going to be fewer people going for it. So when you go for it, it might feel the same because it's going to be easier to hit. Eldritch 3, Tainted Golem, 60 to 65 AD. Eldritch 3, AP, 250 to 240. And then Eldritch 3, stage scaling HP multiplier is going to be bumped up by like 0.1 or 0.05 across the board. So it should be a lot better in the early game. Let's see what they have to say about it. Eldritch has struggled across all but its final chase trait. We're shipping considerable buffs, mainly focused on how the trait scales into the late game, which should help both our vertical Eldritch enjoyers and open up potential to haunt your enemies' endgame boards with an eerie tinge of Eldritch 3. So I'm all for this. I feel like Eldritch was kind of like a weak trait for most of the set. I've said this every single patch they buffed it. Is this time enough? We'll have to see. Meta Snapshot coming out on bunnymuffins.lol on Friday. Eldritch 5, Dark Monolith Stage Scaling HP Multiplier. This one is going to be bumped up a tiny little bit. And then Eldritch 7 getting an AP buff, and then also getting the HP multiplier. More so at later stages than in earlier stages. Honestly, these are decently big buffs. It's quite a bit of HP that they're giving to it. I'm hoping it's enough. It's just a weird comp because it's hard to get a carry for Eldritch. A lot of people like to use Nami, but it's hard to fit in mages if you're running like 7 Eldritch. Frost, AP, and AD is going to be reduced at 9 Frost. 9 Frost was pretty strong, but the Frost Soldier explosion damage is going to be reduced from 600 to 800 to 500 to 700, and you get that at 7 and 9 Frost. Honeymancy percent damage dealt per B going to be reduced at 3 Honeymancy. I actually really like this change. They're actually buffing 7 Honeymancy, but then percent damage taken per B is going to be the same at 3, the same at 5, but reduced at 7. Did they talk about this at all? Overall, I think Honeymancy is in like a decent spot. These seem to be kind of like slight nerfs to 3 Honeymancy, which I agree with. It was a little powerful for what you get from it. Didn't touch 5. I like that because I think 5 was fine. 7 did feel a tad strong, but I wonder how much this change actually affects it. Probably not that much. But then again, 7 Honeymancy, you do need 2 emblems for it, so it is a pretty big thing, so it should feel good, right? Warrior damage amp is going to be buffed up at 4 Warrior. Warrior Omnivamp, same thing, buffed up at 4 Warrior by 2%. 4 Warrior is by far the worst performing Warrior breakpoint. 2 Warrior, fantastic. 6 Warrior, fantastic as well. Before, it is feeling a little lacking, so this change makes perfect sense. Units tier 1, Seraphine ability damage is going to be buffed up across the board. No one plays Seraphine, no one plays Soraka either, so honestly they might need a little more than this, to be frank. Units tier 2, Akali Kunai ability damage is going to be buffed up by 10% AD, and then stay the same for AP. Even 2-starred on stage 2, Akali fails to assassinate anyone. Yeah, I feel that. 3-star, same thing at later stages. It just jumps around and doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, sometimes it kills stuff and then you're like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm playing this unit. And then other times you're like, wow, it killed nothing. I can't believe I'm playing this unit. Units tier 3, Ezreal got a slight nerf. He was pretty powerful. I don't think he was super duper powerful. I think he got outshined by a lot of other stuff. But since other stuff is getting nerfed, namely like the Kalista stuff, maybe tone down Ezreal a bit as well. Hecarim ability cleave damage is going to be dropped across the board. Yeah, Hecarim very OP. He's like a very hit or miss type of champ, but if you hit, you pretty much auto 1 if you got Hecarim 3 and like decent augments. Jinx ability damage is going to have the AD scaling increased by 10%. Jinx was a little left out in the recent patch, but I think it's because all the other Rageblade users were much better than her. Katarina ability damage is going to be nerfed across the board. Why do they hate Katarina so much? I noticed that they wrote something a little bit over here. We've got a few changes to the Fairy Warrior space. Currently, only one warrior carry, Katarina, is as battle hungry as the trait name implies. So we're buffing the trait. Okay, so maybe it's a compensation nerf for the warrior buff. So I guess that makes sense. On to the next one, we have units tier 4. Gwen's ability dash logic is updated. She now dashes to the hex that would hit the most total targets. They said that last time, hopefully that works this time. Tie breaking to the hex furthest from the most enemies. If her current target is out of her base dash range of 3 hexes, she will now dash the shortest distance to reach them rather than gaining infinite dash range. It was weird how she sometimes would dash across the map to snipe someone. Not snipe, snip someone. And they're going to be nerfing her damage to compensate for that. Overall, this is probably a buff though, now that I read it, because if she's going to hit 2 targets, because in the recent patch, she pretty much only hit 1 target. And now she has the chance to hit 2 targets, and she's only getting like a slight nerf in damage. Probably going to be better. And she was already pretty decent in my opinion. I have a very strong feeling Gwen comps are going to be very powerful, assuming the dash logic actually makes sense. Units tier 5, bug fix, Briar is no longer unstoppable while in her frenzied form, and then Nora's getting a mana buff. Now onto augments, we have bug fix, flexible now correctly grants health on away boards. Flexible health per emblem is going to be reduced to compensate for that. High horsepower Lilia bonus damage going to be buffed up by 20%. Item ladder has been re-enabled. They previously disabled this due to some bug abuse that people were doing. Pillar of Flame Shen ability over time damage is going to be increased at 1, 2, and 3 star. The thing about Pillar of Flame is that it's at a 5.63 right now. Even in lower ratings, what's it at? 5.49. Something tells me this isn't going to be enough for him. Royal Guard, Queen AP in AD is going to be changed from 1.5 to 1. I feel like this augment wasn't really that great. You just took it because it allowed you to just hard force fairies. And if they're nerfing fairies, it's going to be weaker, right? I don't think they needed to change this, but maybe they could have nerfed like Kalista a tiny bit. I did check the data for Royal Guard. It is pretty good, but I feel like it's only good because it hard forced you into Kalista and it kind of scared other people away from it, and the comp was OP. So I feel like if they nerfed Kalista a little bit, this would be fine. Spider Queen Elise poison damage is going to be buffed up by 10%. I think we have this in the B tier right now. Maybe it bumps it up to low A. I feel like every hero augment probably should be sitting around low A tier. Maybe high B tier. Essentially, you should only take these if you have like a lot of copies of the unit and if you have good items for them. They shouldn't be auto take and they shouldn't be never take. Winter is coming, frost health 200 to 150. Yeah, this one's pretty OP. Winter is coming, frost attack speed 20% to 15%. Witchy Wallop Poppy ability damage 75 to 80. Zap attack damage rate every 4 seconds being changed to every 5 seconds. This one's actually pretty big change, but this one's the only hero augment in the S tier right now. So probably fair. Like again, I think at low A tier, these would probably be pretty good. This might accomplish that. Support items, Moonstone, Renewer, Shielding. This one was completely bonkers broken. I always took this one if I could, but this one's being dropped down a little bit. Charms, Desperate Plea has been removed. Conjure Pan and Conjure Spatula has been removed. And then they added 2 new ones. Conjure Support, 25 gold. Holy cow. Gain a Support Anvil. That is very expensive, but support items are absolutely incredible in the late game because you already have 3 items on your carries, 3 items on your tanks. The only way to buff them up even more is with a support item. So I think this is a fair cost. It's expensive, but I feel like this is pretty good in the sense that sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't. Study hard, 1 gold, gain 2 XP for each study hard you bought this game. So this is pretty much just like the coin flip one, except for auto gain XP. Tremors is being changed from every 8 seconds to every 10 seconds. Yeah, this one was broken. This is the one that stunned that whole team every 8 seconds, which is completely bonkers because it just procs so many times, right? Lightning Strike and Meteor Storm have been re-enabled. Okay, very nice. And now onto the small changes. Sugarcraft. 6 Sugarcraft is being changed from 50 to 100 HP. 6 Sugarcraft was doing completely awfully. If you type in Sugarcraft here, like 5.16 at 6 Sugarcraft, like it's never been that bad. If we go to the previous patch, you'll see that it was like a 4.26 for like a 6 trait. I feel like that's fair, right? You need a spatula for it. You can't just get it for free. Mage 10 being buffed up a bunch. Holy cow. I thought Mage 10 was good. Was it really not good enough? Like, let's see. 10 mages, 2.52. Let's see all the other 10 traits. Okay, yeah, it is the worst one, but it gave everyone 20 mana. Was it really that bad? I guess so. Units, so many light bumps you'd think we're playing volleyball. Twitch item class updated to attack caster. Zig's ability damage is being dropped down just a tad. Zig's area damage is going to be dropped a tad as well. Pretty big nerf in my opinion. I actually kind of like the Ziggs comp. I thought it was pretty fair. Ari ability Foxfire damage is going to be bumped up a little bit. She's actually like a really cool unit. I like playing her a lot. She's not that good, but her ability looks cool. Nyla ability damage is going to be buffed up at 3-star. Syndra ability damage going to be buffed up across the board. Syndra ability adjacent damage going to be buffed up across the board too. Hopefully we'll be able to click her this patch because she's been unclickable for like the past month. Veigar ability damage buffed up at 3-star. I thought the nerfs of Veigar in the previous patch were kind of unfair, so I'm glad that they're giving him back a little bit of love. Wukong passive, bonus armor and MR bumped up by 5, and Morgana true damage threshold being changed from 33% to 25%. Very fair there. Morgana is pretty busted. Just a very strong unit in general, great traits, etc., etc. You can almost taste the Deathblade tooltip. The following items have new flavor text: Deathblade, Rabadon's Death Cap, Luminous Deathblade, and Rabadon's Ascended Death Cap. Radiant items being adjusted a little bit. Demon Slayer or Giant Slayer getting buffed up a bit. Even Shroud buffed up a bit. Bramble Vest buffed up. Sunfire Cape and Guardbreaker. I guarantee you if we check the items stats and then type in Radiant items, or not type in, like select Radiant items, we'll see, wow, Sunfire Cape's already good, but they're buffing it. Okay, that's a bit odd. Giant Slayer also good, but they're buffing it. Equinox, where's Equinox? Rosethorn Vest is also doing well. That's odd. They're buffing a lot of the good ones. I guess Equinox is the only like quote unquote bad one that they're buffing up. That's very strange though. Normally they buff the bad ones and nerf the good ones, but they're buffing a bunch of the good ones. So I'm a bit confused there because normally all these changes to like random Radiant items or Ornn items, they're normally just data checks, but I'm sure they have a reason for doing this. I just don't know what it is. Bug fixes. Akali now uses her enhanced attacks properly while equipped with Runon's Hurricane and Hextech Gunblade. Briar is no longer, we already did that one. Pillar of Flame will now cast at further range if no targets are in range instead of casting near or on himself. Fixed a bug where Pillar of Flames would function inconsistently on away boards. Maybe this is why it was doing so bad, these two bug fixes, so this plus the damage buff. I'm gonna be honest, I have not seen anyone take this augment and I have not played it either. I just know that it's bad due to the data, but maybe these bugs are very critical. They don't sound that critical to that extent, but maybe they are. Yuumi now properly grants attack damage instead of ability power to AD casters like Varus and Ezreal. Skill-based nerf Draconic Mastery no longer counts takedowns on PvE rounds. Area augments now correctly require the trait to be activated to be shown on 3-2 and 4-2. So this one means that if you had like 2 out of 3 fairies, sometimes you'd still see a fairy augment and now you won't. Pillar of Flame requires Bastion activated to appear on 3-2. Makes sense. Fix the number of bugs around 4-star units. What the Forge and Anger issues will no longer transform Tactician Shield or Cape. Fix a stage 5 carousel that was incorrectly offering 3 Tactician's Crowns plus 6 non-other Tactician's items. Now, as before, the only carousel with Tactician's items is all Tactician's items, 3 crowns, 3 shields, and 3 capes. The emblem variant for Arcana now counts Tactician's capes and shield twice in addition to the crown. Who reported this one? Reforging a unit with all 3 different Tactician's items no longer returns nothing. That's absolutely hilarious. Flexible now correctly grants health on away boards. Wukong shield with spin to win augment is now correctly 2 seconds instead of 0.3 seconds. Was that why it was bad? Because it was 0.3 instead of 2? That's crazy. Mord Wizard Mordekaiser with mage emblem is now mana locked for the correct duration. And fix some interactions between Over Encumbered and the Polymorph Charm. And Jackshow the Protean tooltip now correctly indicates it gives 40 bonus AP in the back 2 rows. So I think the biggest change is going to be the nerf to Kalista, obviously, and the fairy comp. I actually think it's not big enough. I respect Riot for not nerfing it into the ground 10 ways, but maybe nerf it 2 ways, you know? Because it was pretty broken. I just had a game where 5 players went for it, including myself, and I think we averaged like a 4.5 or something like that. And considering there are 5 players going for the comp, that's pretty good, you know? Don't ask me why I didn't pivot off of it. I just felt like going Kalista that game, and so did everyone else, I guess. Comps I think that are going to take over the meta, probably going to be any Gwen comp. It seems like if the writing is correct, if the tooltip is correct, she seems much, much stronger. And that means like all the Karma Warrior board is going to be really good. Any Fiora Gwen comp is going to be smacking people pretty hard. I think she's going to be the unit to look out for in the next patch. But I'm going to be releasing all my thoughts and the meta snapshot on Friday, as I do every single Friday. If you check the website late Thursday night, sometimes it might be up there already if you're a little bit of an early bird. And if you are eagerly waiting for the meta snapshot, but it's not up yet, you can always go to teamfight.lol and do some data checking on like champions, for example. If you like playing 4 costs, just type in 4 here and you'll see which champions are going to be doing well once a new patch releases. It's pretty helpful as I check this pretty often. If you want to see if a reroll comp is really popular, you could type in like 1, 2, or 3, and then you could check out 3-star average placement, look at Veigar, for example, and be like, oh, he's getting 3-starred at 36% of the time, averaging a 3.94. Maybe not the greatest, but if he's up at like a 3.5, maybe you go ahead and try to play him. You could always check how he was in previous patches as well, when he was played a bit more, and he was at like a 3.75 when he was played a bunch before. You could also change it based on whatever rating you're in. So if you're Master Plus, do Master Plus. If you're in Platinum, do Platinum. But overall, this is pretty helpful for those who want to look at some data before all the meta snapshots are out. But that's going to be it from me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.